Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant. This channel is all about Canadian immigration news, updates, things that you should do, should not do with your Canadian immigration application. The main topic for today's discussion was Canadian immigration becoming more difficult. And guys, I've been extremely honest with you. I've been very transparent. I don't try to mince my words. I don't try to make it look brighter than whatever. So as far as Canadian immigration is concerned, I've always been saying that there are about 1.2 million people in Canada who are temporary residents. And that number comes from the open source data from IRCC's website based on how many international students, how many temporary foreign workers, spouses of the international students, spouses of the temporary foreign workers. Collectively, this number, in my opinion, is more than 1.2 million. Nowhere does it give you the exact number, but if you calculate all these different numbers, 1.2 million is approximately that number that you would come at. What I didn't realize or calculate is the other provisions that IRCC has been making politically or whatever you want to call it, whether it was giving now work permit authorizations to Iranian candidates, whether it was giving work permit authorizations to Ukrainians. I understand now that 900,000 have applied, roughly 500,000 to 600,000 have been approved. Of these, already 200,000 people have already arrived in Canada. These are all approximate numbers, not exact numbers. These are rounded up numbers on the more realistic side. So roughly 200,000 Ukrainians have already arrived. About 500 to 600,000 have been approved. Total 900,000 have applied, which the possibility is that they would also get approved as and how we are going. That basically means we don't only have 1.2 million people who are in Canada who are temporary residents, but when you will add these numbers, you are looking at roughly, as and when most of these people are in Canada, roughly 2 million people or closer to that. And these are the number of people who will all want to become permanent residents. I mean, look at it realistically. Let's say even half want to choose to stay in Canada. That basically puts direct number of temporary residents to more than 1.6, 1.8 million people. Add to that the new international students who are constantly coming into Canada because the admissions are not closing. The number of international students who are getting approved is not reducing. Add to that their spouses. Add to that the temporary foreign workers who are coming because there is a huge shortage in so many industries in Canada. If you see this number, this just completely blows my mind because nobody is talking about it. Nobody is giving anybody this number and saying, guys, the annual immigration quotas, the annual immigration targets every year is roughly 500,000, about roughly 500,000, right? Let's not get to the exact number. 485,000 for this year, next year 500,000. But if that number is 500,000 and that 500,000 again is broken down between federal high-skilled workers, express entry, PNPs, refugees, protected persons, family immigration, business immigration, caregivers, all these different categories. So what is going to happen with these 2 million people, roughly 2 million people? I mean, where is the place for them in the immigration quotas?
Because there's been such growth in the international student program, for example, we now have more international students in Canada in a given year than we have spaces for permanent residents in our entire immigration levels plan. So it won't be the case that every single person who comes here temporarily will have an opportunity for a TR to PR like we did during the pandemic. But we're working now to develop a tool to figure out how we can identify those students or temporary workers who are likely to qualify for permanent residency. This will also require us to consider a re-examination of how we determine who will be admitted on a temporary basis in the first place, because we keep running into this scenario where someone's told, you can't come to Canada because we don't believe you're likely to go home, when in fact we're working to create a pathway to permanent residency for some of the world's best and brightest students and talented workers that we want to convert to permanent residency.
Even if you say that, yes, that will happen over the next few years, if it happens over the next few years, is anybody calculating that each year more people keep coming to Canada? More temporary workers will come to Canada, more temporary residents will come to Canada. All these international students who are already in Canada, they would be completing their studies. They would be also entering the race of becoming permanent residents. They would also completing the Canadian education, Canadian work experience, and hence becoming eligible with that. They're also securing job offers and they would be coming into the same race. Trust me, whenever I look at these numbers, it completely baffles me that nobody within the government is coming out and talking about this is going to be a huge issue. This is going to be a big problem. This imbalance in the numbers. I mean, okay, let's take a more conservative number. Let's say there are not 2 million. Let's say there are 1 million. Okay, let's absolutely break it down and say, okay, Kubeir, you are talking bullshit. This is not 2 million, 1 million people. Okay, you will agree, right? 1 million, that is what IRCC has been publishing on their website. Approximately 1 million. Tell me how even 1 million can be accommodated within this year's express entry quota is only 82,000 people, 82,880 only. All right. PNP quota is 105,000 people. Where is the room? Where is the space? Where is the wiggle room here? But realistically, when you go out and promote to the world that we are an immigrant welcoming country and we want to do this, why don't you go out and tell people how difficult this is going to be? Or why do the colleges are still, or universities are still promoting the programs saying that what they offer as Canadian education is a pathway for permanent residence? Why are you not saying clearly that this is only to study? If you want to come, just study and go back. Do not look at this as a permanent resident option, because more and more and more people will find it difficult. I do so many consultations in one day in, day out. And one of the biggest questions always from people is, what are my chances? Sometimes I just do not know what to tell people. That is, or without being absolutely, upfront and telling them, you do not have a chance. You're wasting your time. And the sooner you realize it, the less money and the less time and the less effort you're going to waste behind this. In most cases, if your CRS score is low, you do not have a possibility of a job offer. You do not want to take up French as a second language. You do not want to come to Canada as an international student. The doors are already closed the minute this happens. The only freak door that will open for you is if you get invited by Alberta under some freak draw that happens, because Alberta doesn't announce. Other than that, there is nothing there. There is no option. I can't come up with a secret pathway or a secret door that will open up for you. But that is the reality. Even people who are inside Canada, people who are international students, so many of the international students have still not woken up to understand that it is going to be a very difficult route ahead. Bill C-19, yes, I agree with a lot of people who say that Bill C-19 would give advantage to a lot of people. But it would not give it to everybody. It would give it to select few. Immigration programs are always meant to fulfill a requirement of the country, not of the people. So many times people confuse this. People start thinking that Canada is being unfair, Sean Fraser is being unfair, IRCC is being... Why are they being unfair? Did they promise you anything? They did not, right? So they're not being unfair. Where they are not being fair is by not being clear, by not giving you clarity, by not communicating. At the end of the day, they call you a client. So the least they can do for a client is give them clarity, tell them what's happening, what's not happening, what can happen, what cannot happen, or at least what they are planning to do. That way people can then prepare and plan accordingly. But other than that, it's not about being fair or unfair. At the end of the day, Canada will do whatever they need to do for Canada, not for you. The idea is never to give you the benefit. The idea is always to do it for the benefit for the country, for Canada. So once you have that clarity, then as an international student, you have to start thinking, what are your options from the day you come in? Rather, not even from the day you come in, from the day you decide to come to Canada as an international student, from that day onwards itself, you should have your clarity as to what path am I going to take. Even today, people want to come to Ontario to study. Well, if you're coming to Ontario to study, have you identified your pathway? Have you figured out how you're going to become a permanent resident? Because, hello, let's accept it. You are not coming to Canada to study. I mean, so all that bull that you write in your SOP saying, hey, but this studying this would give me this opportunity, this, and that, all that, you know it, I know it, that's all, yeah, BS, right? So let's put that out of the window. That's only meant for the visa officer to give you your approval. You are not coming to Canada to study. You are coming to Canada because it will give you the opportunity to become a permanent resident. From there on, you get a first world passport, you become a citizen. That's your goal. And if that's your goal, and absolutely fine with that, then know your pathway from day one, even before you come to Canada, even before you have decided to study. Choose the province wisely. As of right now, most of you want to come to Ontario. Most of you want to go to BC. Why? Because your friends are there, because the weather is nice, because more people, because of this, because... Think, is it giving you a realistically good option to become a PR? Why are you not going into the rural area? Okay, few years of discomfort, fair enough. But then what is your end goal? What is your objective? You spend so much of money for what exactly? If you're not willing to take that few years of discomfort, and discomfort of what? Not that people will make you sleep on ice outside on the street. Discomfort of not having a bigger community, discomfort of living in a smaller area, discomfort of living in a rural area. Maybe you learn to like it. Or going to a province like Atlantic provinces where the competition is not based on points, but simply based on eligibility criteria. You're eligible, apply for it. And if you want to come to Ontario, choose a master's program. At least if you complete a master's program, you're a master's graduate, you can apply for nomination directly. You come to BC, complete a master's degree in 7 of those indicated fields. Where you complete your master's in those 7 indicated fields, you can apply for nomination immediately after completing. Go to the Atlantic provinces, where if you complete your master's or your graduate certificate in certain programs, you would be eligible for nomination immediately after that. Do your research, be smart, understand what your options are right from get-go. Mind you, there will be an exodus of people who would be in Canada illegally, because after a point of time, their options would have run out. People are not thinking rural. You have to start thinking rural. If you do not have an option, you don't have a choice, think rural. That's where the shortage is. That's where the employers are. That's where you can find job offers. That's where if you go, you will find options, whether it's LMIAs, whether it's finding a job offer for PNP support, whether it's finding your work experience and that employer who's willing to support you. In short, to summarize, all I'm telling you is Canadian immigration is difficult, is going to get more difficult as we move forward. Whether it's Bill C-19, whether it's the exodus of number of temporary residents who are increasing in Canada and nobody's talking about it, the imbalance between the temporary residents and the permanent residents and nobody's saying anything about it. At some point of time, this will have to come down to understanding as to what's happening, what needs to be done. And if you are amongst that number, then you will be smart enough to identify it now and take some real tough decisions today versus having to leave Canada without any option tomorrow. That's your choice. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. If you wish to discuss with me your situation, your case, your questions, your queries one-on-one, then please, this is the link. By all means, book an appointment. We will be happy to discuss with you one-on-one. If you have received a notification of interest from Ontario and are simply not sure how you need to proceed, then drop us an email. We can help you handle your application. So if that's what you're looking to do, by all means do. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Definitely, this is the place to be for all the credible information that you want to get about Canadian immigration. Thank you so much for joining in. I shall see you next time. Until then, take care, stay safe.